If I come home, I can remember once I came home and he was rest. And like a thousand further down when we had sharing and things like that. You know? And she was a little mummy for everybody right there. Just today or just the other evening we were reflecting on our lives, how it has been since. When we first got married, it had such a lot of little pretty names for each other. Names that I can remember my mom used to call and tease dots about. Sometimes I would call her Buno. And she might call me Chuli and things like that. We had little pretty names for each other. But when the children came along, our names seemed to have changed. From daddy to mommy. And even I would still call me shouting, "Oh, mommy, come," she would have called and the rest of it. And further now, at this stage now, your grandma and grandpa. So you can see that our lives have definitely been influenced and has been circulated and enveloped within our children. We're really happy and fortunate. Sometimes I have to question the worthiness of the blessings that I have got. It seems like at this stage, I've got so much. I've got so much. The heart of man is always greedy, but still you can reflect that I have got so much. And even at this point I should be so very thankful for what we have. And most of all our children, our family as they have spread out, the person that has come into our lives because of our children, Michael, Eddie, Daniel, Sharon, Shari, John, Natalie, and the families behind us. They have all come into our lives and I blossomed out so nicely, so nice. It seems to be a part of the rhythm of my life. Because Dot's mommy, Amelia, Miss Relia, Mrs. Cassie, whoever knows her by whichever name, I think she actually forgot that I was her son-in-law. At one time she actually told me that. She said, "Linton, I can't even remember your name, or I remember you as my son." She says there's such a lot of beautiful memories that she had. And it seems like this is what is happening now into my life. I can't be remembering my children only as my children, but also their wives and other relatives are just mine and my family. Yeah. So this has been very rewarding. As I said earlier, I've never measured any values by monetary achievement. I seem to measure values by the quality of your
life. In your early days, Dad, what were you like at 16?
I was 16.
What do you remember about your life at 16 years old?
What is amusing about that is that when you reach this age, you're hearing stories of yourself when you were 16, which you did wonder if you would have been glad to have heard it at that age. I can remember years ago I went into, there was a man who was interested in renting Mommy's shop up at St. And he, I had to approach a man about it, and he had known the shop And he had known me, and he said he can remember that when I came there, I was one of the most handsome guys that he had ever seen. As a matter of fact, he and some fellas walked up the night to look at this young man who had come to look for dance. Yes, that was so. I can remember again, what I say, when we were 16, we should know these things. I remember again going into Sinclair's garage, where Milton Robinson is the managing director. And there's a guy there, and he was telling the girls in the office, he said, Mr. Mirander, the young man was one of the most handsome men I have ever seen. Oh, you wish you heard this when you... There's a lot of good in not hearing it, because you might have felt different about yourself. As a young man coming up, there were certain little things that I, like everybody else, you set them within yourself and you try and stay there. I developed a early sense of independence. My mommy left me when I was about 12. When I began to reflect upon my family, my mommy and my daddy were separated. So mommy was having quite a struggle. So she left me when she was about 12 and went to New York and was working in New York. And that time I was living at Nurse McKinnis, along Russell Road. And she left me at about 12. She had to leave because she had to go abroad and where she could earn some money to help me support us. During those years, I got a job at Kisses as a wrapper. And that money, what I made on a weekend, was enough to give me my lunch money and maybe even to look after my bicycle needs.
How much you are making then?
I was making what would be 3 and 6 per day, which is 35 cents per day. And then Uncle Eric was along with me in those days. We always worked together. And this is another beautiful thing about my family, because when I say my family, that, because Eric had always been with us. It looked like when she married me, 2 hours came along and found me alone. I used to work, as I said, and help myself because I felt very guilty that my mommy has to be away up in New York, maybe doing domestic work. So when I was able to, when I was sitting and taking exams, I got a job at John Crook for £3.10 a week, which in those days was a big thing. So, unfortunately, you know, at that age you don't see the wisdom, or you don't have the wisdom. I left my exams to go and take the job. Because getting this £3.10 a week, I can remember when I came home that weekend, I wrote Mama right away to let her know that I had got a job for £3.10 a week and I would be able to pay my boarding and Eric's boarding. And then now she wouldn't have to be up in New York and away from us. So I was kind of elated, and this was the direction in which my wisdom was at that time. Yeah. So I wrote her, told her, and I started paying Eric's boarding, and I took Eric, although Eric is my older brother. I'm the youngest of all of them. Yeah. I took Eric as mine, I was responsible for him. So after that, life's in full, I got the job, and then after I got a job, it was shortly after that I got a car.
What kind of car?
I got a Buick Century.
I remember the fancy person.
No, this was even before you came along. I got a Buick there, Buick, that was a story by itself. I was working at John Crook. In the garage, they had this Buick which had come into repair. I can remember everything about the details of it because I believe this was a turning point in my life. That Buick was parked in the garage for about 3 years because the owner died. After I did my ask, oh, this car is here so long, this is what I heard. And the owner left a bill of $144, £144, 40 shillings and 4 pence. I can remember everything about that car. And I approached then Mr. The owner, Mr. Democado, who was then owner, he was then the owner of John Crooks Limited, and approached them about this car, told them that I was interested in the car. I think it was about a Friday evening. That time I was about 18. I want a Buick at 18. That was never heard of in definitely not heard of in Jamaica. So he said to me, Miranda, that car is by far too big for you. But I seem to have had my mind so well set on the car. I guess I had gone to bed for days even before I approached it. And this thing had wound it into my mind so much that it's like I must have this car. So when he told me, Mr. Miranda, that car is bad, I don't think he called me Mr. like that. I was a little boy, Miranda. Miranda, that car is too big for you. He said, what I will do, I promise you, I will look at a nice little car and get it for you. I guess at that stage, tears welded into my eyes. So he saw how I felt about it. He said, well, go home, discuss it with your family, and come back to me on Monday and let me know what, how you feel. Well, I didn't have any family to discuss it with because I was bored. My brothers were on their own, everybody looking. You know, mommy was away. So I discussed it with myself and I came back. I wanted the car. So the Monday morning I went in quite early, saw his secretary. Yes, Miranda wanted it. I would like to see Mr. Democado. They seem to have liked the door a lot at John Crooks. They really seem to have liked it. I was doing my work good. These are things now that you realize that you did. But at that time, you're just doing what you're doing and you're not really paying much attention either way. So I said, okay, Mr. Democado, I thought about it and I would like to have. He told his secretary to bring the bill across, Mike. The bill was £144, 14 shillings and 4 pence. When he told me the bill, Mr. Democado must have looked at my face and saw my expression and know that not in dreams I have ever had that kind of money. So, looked down at the paper again and looked at me and said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the car for just the parts, the new parts that we have put on the car. I said, oh, so. He says, but you're going to have to pay for it cash. I said, okay, sir. So he looked on the parts section, it was 70-something pounds. Man, I didn't have that. So he told me what it was, 70-something pounds. I said, I don't have that, Mr. Democado. He said, then how do you come to buy a car? I couldn't answer that question. So he said, how much you have? So I said, I believe I have about 50 pounds in also. So he said, all right, bring it in the morning and I will see I pick up the car. And I brought it The next morning, you know I would have, I think I had that car. I bought it, brought it early in the morning and gave it to him. And he drew his personal check, of the difference and gave me it to pay for the car, gave me it. And we got the car, and late the evening...
What color that car was?
Was a Buick Century. Ever hear of a 17 or 18-year-old boy in Jamaica owning a Buick Century? You're talking of good 40 odd years ago. You can just imagine this was something not heard of. You never have boys of 17, 18 driving. Much less driving Buick Century. Alright. The evening I was taking home the car, why I have to tell you about this, because I believe this influenced or this shows some of my little qualities and my further development. When I was taking home the car was so long in the garage that the tires bursted off. And I had to go and get some old tires and took it home. Anyway, when I got the car home, after a couple of days, Mr. Democrat said to me, "Oh, it's the car." I said, "Well, it's okay also. But when I was taking it home, all the tires broke. So what I'm going to do now is work and get some." They were then the owner, John Crook was, Mr. Democrat, John Crook had a lot of business. They had Lasses, Democrat, they had Firestone, they had John Crook, they even had travel services, they had a lot of business. This I didn't know, this I didn't even pay attention to. This had nothing to do with me really. I was doing what I could do. So he phoned across to John Crook and to Firestone, and he said, "Listen up, I wanted to get a set of tires for Mr. Mirander. Give it to him at exactly what it cost." So I said, "Okay." So he said, "Okay, go across and get the tires and pay for it." However, went across, I don't know. Those days I always seem to set myself like I have goal that I certainly have to stretch it. I got the most expensive set of tires John Crook Firestone sell. It was white wall. White wall tires. So I got them, took them, put them home. Of course it come with the blue thing. You shine it down and do Dutch cleanser and black polish on the black side and Dutch cleanser on the white side. And got the tires maybe the weekend, Monday morning early, man. About 6 o'clock, man. The car parked right in front of John Crook. Parked right at the door. That anybody going into the car, John Crook, must see the Buick first, man. I reached out there about 6 in the morning, man. At time that car was so well kept. Even today I still seem to have a fascination brought about from that entire time. Because even when the car was not running, and I had it parked for days because of the lack of tires, every evening that car was cleaned and washed. I can remember little birds coming on.
What color it was?
It was a kind of gray. And it was so quiet, the motor was so quiet, that Uncle Gia named it the Ghost. Because when you come into the yard, nobody here. When you start the car, and even today, that seemed to, now reflecting on it, that seemed to have a, because if I start the car and you don't hear the engine, I said to you, you don't hear the engine. So, that, this happened 40 odd years ago, and this seemed to have a little, seemed to be with him today. Anyway, I never felt ever to work for anybody. I always, whenever I worked for anybody, I gave them a lot more. I gave a lot of time to my work, and I did my work good. Yes, I did my work very well. And I always gave my employees a lot more. I never measured as I said, money wasn't the value, it was the quality, and I gave quality. But at the same time, I felt that I was always worth more, and I was being paid. And I would never get what I am worth as long as I kept working for somebody. So shortly after I got the car, I got a battery for it, a new battery, everything I was getting was new again for that car. And shortly after I went into, I approached the dealer. Why I'm going so long on this? Because this was my influence. I approached the dealer who dealt in haberdashery. And I told him that I would like to be a traveling agent. That is to me, take goods and go out into the country and sell it and that. So he said to me, but I don't have a job to give you. I said, I wasn't really asking for a job, sir. What I'm asking is for you to give me the goods on concession. And I will sign for it. And when I take it out into the country and sell it, whatever I sell, I pay for it. And I'll also pay whatever I can towards whatever goods I have. So he said to me, well, suppose something happens. He said, what do you have as a collateral? I said, I have a car. He said, well, suppose I give you my goods and I go out in the country and we meet in an accident, I would lose my goods. And he said, well, I don't think that would really happen also. I think he saw the sincerity in what I was saying. So he decided to give me goods. And I took the goods and I went into the country, but it was a rough life. It was a life, I guess if I had to do it all over again, if I started my life again, I would do it all over again. But it was a rough life. We would go out on a Monday. I mightn't come back in until a Thursday. I didn't know exactly where I would sleep, like tonight or tomorrow night. It depends on what town I went into or where. And you don't know, you don't have the comfort at home like definitely you won't. Somebody looking after breakfast for you or this or that. So after time now, my sister and Nurse McKinnis, who I was staying with, said that it was a very hard life that I had chosen. It was a very tough life. Imagine you're gone, we do not know where you are tonight, we do not know you're sleeping and this and that and that. So of course these little talkings kind of keep coming to you. And you're kind of rolling them over into your mind. But what I was making in those days, I don't see where a salary, that was plenty of money for me. When I come in on a Thursday, the amount of money I bring in. And then eventually I was able to pay for all the goods at a storeroom. Now if you look, those are things that seem to even influence my life today because I've kept that trend right up. And this is what has moved my even little business at home here from a little pick up to the trucks that I have. So you see that it's early in life that now with just talking, make you see that early in life you actually have a path cut out that you will follow. So it's nice to choose a nice path. And definitely, as I can remember a person saying, the greatest influences that anybody has is their daily contacts. And of course, I was fortunate that the daily contacts I had was people who influenced me in nice directions.
Who was the one who used the influence the most in life? If there was anybody that...
you wanted to emulate? I can't believe that anybody really as such influenced me much in life as such. I think I might have had my own fiction within myself. This might have been brought about by my mommy, who was always a very strong person. my family life was, when I can remember, my mommy and daddy was separated and then mommy had gone away, so that was most of our family life. But I think that maybe your teachers are, but as I said, fortunately, the people that I met, because your daily contacts are your greatest influence. And I think mommy for one, mommy definitely, because there's nothing that I could ever do that was had a shade of wrong in it, that I would ever get her support in that. I could never do that. So I think this was a great influence, and she was willing to make any sacrifices to make sure that I kept right, and there was nothing that she wanted that was should ever come wrong. So this is something that you have to work in that direction for. Anyway, after time now with this traveling thing now, how I came to give it up after all of this talking. I got sick out in the country in Ontario, and it seemed like everything went wrong. Got sick. I had a fever, and when I went into those days we didn't have these big luxurious hotels, they had more like small little room houses. So when I went into one of them, which I was staying the night, I had a lot of chills and I was very sick. I was very sick. And it seems at that time I was getting malaria. And went into the hotel room. At that time we didn't have the Star, which is our evening paper. We had a paper that days named Express. And when I pick up the Express, I look at the Express, I read where a salesman died in a hotel room. And yes, where a salesman died in a hotel room and they never know until about 2 days after. I say, oh Lord, now this is something now. Anyway, the morning I woke. The morning I woke, but I was sick, real sick. Chills that I could almost, when I shake the bed shake. So I got up, decided I'm coming back to Kingston, but I'm going to work my way back into Kingston so as not to make it a empty run. Went across to the gas station. When I pressed my brake, the front brake tubing break off. I said, oh Lord. Anyway, I tied that up and locked off the brakes, so I have 3 year brakes. Coming home the night now, no light. The fellow who was traveling with me, he had to sit down on the fender because those cars had a kind of fender like this, you know. So he sat down on the fender with a flashlight showing me the bank, you know, and we made it into Stony Hill. But I wouldn't take the chance and come down into Tree because police would arrest me for not having a light. So I slept in the car at Stony Hill. And I came home and I was sick for about 2 weeks, but I was so terribly sick with this malaria that it had made you delirious. I can remember they saying to me that I sold a whole lot of goods because when I came out of this fever, because I would be asking people what about slate, what about lead pencils, everything. Anyway, after I got over the sickness, I decided that I would give it up. And I sold the car, and I sold all my goods, and I had a lot of money. I always seem to have had money.